You talk to anyone who's been in business for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and like, what's the one thing that like you wish that you knew back then? Like, just keep going. Like, it sucks and you can't make payroll and you're trying to figure this out, and it's like you're stressed out all the time. There's oftentimes more month than money or whatever the scenario is, and it's like, just keep going.
On today's episode of the Journey to Legacy podcast, I interview an ex-pro cyclist, the owner of Fractional CMO, and actually an individual who sold a business to Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Mr. Draye Redfern is with us in the studio, and he shares with us everything from how to structure your business, how to avoid scope creep with clients. We talk so much about business entrepreneurship, as well as the importance of family. Really what this whole thing is about. I'm super excited for you guys to listen to this interview. Let's hop right on in with Mr. Draye Redfern of fractionalcmo.com. Fractional CMO. So actually the company's name is Fractional CMO.
Company name and the URL. I got them both. That's a story there too.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, kick us off. How did you literally land on that name and get the URL?
So Fractional, I've owned a marketing agency for the last 15 years, basically, but we noticed a pivot like 5 years ago or so where they had butts in seats, or they had employees in the company, and or maybe they had an existing agency, but they just needed some strategy. So it's like, all right, well, I would rather be on the cutting edge of that. Nice. So I went to fractionalcmo.com, and the guy had it listed for sale. And I contacted him. I ended up buying the URL from him for $5,000, and some of the other quote-unquote assets that were there, but there weren't really a lot of assets. Sure. And 90 days later, I got offered $800,000 for that same domain name, and I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. So if they're willing to pay $800,000 before I actually build anything on it, how much will it be worth once I do? And that was sort of the precipice of that company starting.
I like it. Yeah, when you said that you bought it for $5,000, I was very shocked just now by how little that was. And then, getting an offer for $800,000. What was the person doing with Fractional CMO before you that he only valued his URL for his entire business at only $5,000?
I think it was primarily just like I bought it, like I was doing other things. It was just sitting on the shelf. There was not even a redirect. It's like, that was set up. So it was just like, internet real estate. It was like, $5,000 sounds good. Like I sell it for $5,000. Which if you would have done some homework, anyone out there or a simple Google search would have told you it's worth a lot more than that. But, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Makes me curious to look for all of the other like fractionalceo.com, right? Or fractionalanything.com. See if that real estate is still up for grabs.
I've scooped up the majority of the ones that were similar or some level of overlap just to get now. But yeah, it's slim pickings these days.
I believe it. I like how you said like you realized like you were on to something when they pitched you that. One of my friends now with, AI just going wild and all of these like sort of AI digital influencers happening. It's harder to tell who's real, who's fake. He said in the middle of the night, he woke up and he thought about a business that would be called Verified Human. And so he had Googled, apparently it was like 3 a.m., Googled verifiedhuman.com, or he had put on to GoDaddy. And it's currently going for like 4 million. And so he was like, I'm on to something. And so he immediately bought verifiedhuman.app. And so he's sitting on it to debate if he's going to do anything with it. But still, he's on the right track though.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I like it. Draye, but so you've been in the marketing space a long time, even before launching Fractional CMO. Take us back a little bit, give everybody an idea of your background all the way up to what you're doing today.
Yeah, so I started in business in the insurance space. And insurance is not sexy. It's one of those things. But we all need it. So our niche, what it was we served 1 to 3 attorney law firms across the U.S., basically in 32 of the 50 states. And it was a niche inside of a niche. It wasn't just, insurance. We did professional liability / errors and omissions insurance, like same name, different name for the same thing. And then in niching down even further, we sold 1 to 3 attorney law firms their malpractice insurance. Similar to like if a doctor did an operation and they left a sponge or something inside of you, whatever they do, you can sue them for malpractice. Lawyers can also, have malpractice issues. You misfiled a trust, you missed a deadline that causes the client tens of thousands of dollars. These things happen. None of us are completely, infallible. So we built that business to eventually be doing about $40 million a year in sales, and then sold it about 2 years ago this month to Berkshire Hathaway, one of the Berkshire Hathaway companies. So it's kind of cool that you sold a company to Warren. And that was that. But there's a lot of overlap with various companies at the same time. So I ran the marketing for that company. We grew it to that level. But about 14, 15 years ago, I also started my agency, my marketing agency. And that was, it's slow rolling for the first few years, I would say, of just trying to figure out who, what we serve, et cetera. Now we've got a really good footing with a lot of big personality brands, business household names that you would have heard of. Like people that I can talk about would be like Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who wrote the book 10X is Easier Than 2X, The Gap in the Game, like a lot of stuff like that. We've done all the Ben stuff, launch-wise for 8 years now.
Wow.
Dear friend. We've helped, Joe Polish, founder of Genius Network, which, it's a great platform and group there. People like Chris Voss, the FBI hostage negotiator, and a bunch of other people, sharks from Shark Tank, that sort of thing. So we help a lot of people like that and big publicly traded companies all the way down to like the mom and pop shop on Main Street where, I'd like to just market and get myself out in the community more. So we've helped everyone from, like just getting going to, multinational big personality brands and publicly traded companies, et cetera. And so there's quite a bit, like you do different marketing things depending on where people are at. But there's definitely a lot of depth and breadth, I would say, in the company to be able to handle those type of clientele.
Yeah, absolutely. Dre, okay, so interesting. So you came from running an insurance company. So like you were focused specifically on the marketing of it also. But you guys were doing insurance for law firms and grew it to a size to actually sell it to a part of Berkshire Hathaway. That's definitely no small feat.
Yes, it's pretty cool. Like it's a nice little thing to put on the wall. What's not cool is when, they fly out all of their MBAs and give you business colonoscopies of all the stuff that they go through, which is good. I mean, it was a really good learning experience. I've bought and sold a few different companies in different capacities, but that one was a very unique one. And so they definitely have their process pretty dialed in from the acquisition side of things, I would say.
Nice, I like it. Okay, and so then bought and sold a few different companies also. It sounds to me that you actually were working on a few different companies at the same time when this was growing. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of entrepreneurial ADD, I would say.
Entrepreneurial ADD. Define that a little bit more for me. What do you mean by that?
Well, everyone knows what ADD means, attention deficit disorder. I like having my hands in multiple cookie jars at any one time. Like just take
Nice.
the two primary companies that we work on. I have Redfern Media, which is a full service digital agency, and then fractionalcmo.com.
Nice.
Both marketing in some capacity, but it's just different ends of the marketing pool, if you will. Sold my stake in a consultancy for financial advisors a bit ago. And that was like, in my role in that consultancy was basically helping teach, coach financial advisors around how to market themselves better. So it's all under a marketing umbrella, but there's various elements of sort of stuff that I can stay in my own lane, the stuff that I'm really, really good at, but add value to either the control outright or that I have pieces of that I can sort of make, bigger impacts that way.
Okay, nice. I like it. Now, I used to refer to a similar thing as productive restlessness, where I just feel like I can't sit still until I just start working on projects and new things. There's a discrepancy between focusing in on building just one company, one project at a time, versus having your hand in multiple cookie jars. What's your opinion on that?
I think they're both accurate, but it depends on where you're at. If you're getting going, you should not have like the whole thing of like, millionaires on average have 8 to 11 streams of income is complete BS. I mean, it's true, but they didn't start that way. They started with their, nose down in the mud, like making things happen. And then once you begin to have some level of success and cash flow, then you could peel that off to go do other things. And then you can have your 8 to 11 or 500 different streams of income. It doesn't really matter what it is. So I'm lucky enough to be in one of those other capacities now where I have dozens and dozens of employees. We have big deals, big clients. I don't need to have my sole time being just in a singular business, so I have that luxury now, and I'm very blessed to have that. But for the first 8 to 10 years, it was not like that. It was basically just nose down and try and grow this thing, and then it was, okay, I'll overlap for a little bit, but my prime, 90% of my attention is the agency, and maybe 10% is the insurance agency. And so it just sort of depends. Like you evolve over time, but I don't think it's a static answer of just like, you're going to do this amount of things at this exact time.
Nice. Okay. So it's not a static answer, right? Because it depends on each individual situation. But it does sound like your advice is when you're getting up and running first, right? Especially new entrepreneurs, is focusing on one singular thing.
1,000%.
Yeah.
One
Nice.
thing. And that doesn't mean you fall so in love with your own idea that you can't see the forest for the trees. Because sometimes you have to pivot. Sometimes your idea sucks. Or sometimes you get like a different idea or a God wink or whatever you want to call it, where you realize, okay, the pivot needs to occur and it needs to start sooner rather than later. And when you do that, then it makes it like easier to pivot when you get certain feedback. But until that point happens, stay with the thing.
I appreciate that insight into, focusing on building one thing first, right? Have its success, grow, honestly, just learn as an entrepreneur before you start to diversify. But I'm curious, I read that you're a former professional cyclist. I'm guessing that happened before entrepreneurship, or tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, before entrepreneurship, my father had the option of coming. He immigrated to the U.S. and had the option of either getting a full ride golf scholarship or a full ride hockey scholarship, and he chose golf because golf was a little easier on the body. I had two younger brothers. Also went to the University of Arizona, and they both played golf professionally. So athletics sort of ran in the family, and I played varsity golf in high school, but it was always too slow for me. And so being able to be on a bike and, leaning into someone at 30 or 32 miles an hour, and then, being able to just psychologically demoralize them when you peel away from them, it was just a lot more fun to me at the time. And so I was fortunate enough, I raced all over the U.S., Canada. I did a bunch of stuff in Europe as well. Texas state champion a few times over. But it was one of those things where even that at the top of the top, that I wasn't quite at the top of the top, but the top that I could get at with my physical capabilities. You're not making any money. Like maybe one day you're making $2,000, the next month you're making 500, and it's really tough to lead a lifestyle like that. Like the sponsorship deals and having bikes and all that stuff, sounds really great to ride a $10,000 bike and not pay for it. But it's a tough thing to really build a lifestyle around, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't pay your rent on a $10,000 bike, huh?
Yeah, I
But
mean, I guess you could. You just got to sell the bike, and then you're sort of then you're out of luck.
there you go. But it's cool that, actually that sports athleticism totally ran in your family. But I'm curious, what did racing at such a high level actually teach you about building businesses?
It's funny. I was literally on a call with one of our clients this morning. He runs a fractional family office, big successful business, and we help them with their marketing and branding and things. And he's training for an Ironman right now, and I'm doing an Ironman later this year. But we're having a conversation about what it's like to go deep into the pain cave, where everything hurts, all you want to do is quit, and you're having to play some sort of psychological game with yourself in order to just keep moving forward. And I think that has so many correlations to business. Like if you could really suffer physically, because like an Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and then a marathon, so 26.2 miles. And we used to joke that, why would you be mediocre at 3 sports when you could be good at 1 when I was a cyclist? Yet here I am, I find myself becoming a triathlete. But if you can go deep into the pain cave, there's so many analogies or metaphors of what that translates to business, of just being able to stay. Like you talk to anyone who's been in business for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And like, what's the one thing that like you wish that you knew back then? Like, just keep going. Like, it sucks and you can't make payroll and you're trying to figure this out. And it's like, you're stressed out all the time. There's oftentimes more month than money or whatever the scenario is. And it's like, just keep going. And so there's so much of the psychological elements that I take from those days into the business world now that it's just like, I got this. It doesn't, I mean, it sucks, but it doesn't suck that bad.
I really like how you said multiple times going deep into the pain cave. And then, yeah, just keep going, right? It's like, what, last man standing wins?
I mean, to a degree, I think business is a full contact sport. So if business is a full contact sport, you have to kind of treat it that way. Like there is competition and there are good days and bad days and people wanting to put you out of business and people wanting to sue you or wanting to embezzle from you, whatever the things are. I mean, I had a conversation with a bunch of entrepreneurs, very, very successful people. I think I was probably the least successful person in the room. I mean, we're talking like, 9-figure plus net worths. And every single one of us raised our hands when someone posed the question, have you ever been in a lawsuit or embezzled from or been divorced? And there was not a single hand that was not raised as a result of that. Like, it's just it's the cost of doing business, the cost of having success or whatever the thing is. And so all of that kind of sucks. And so there's elements of it of just being able to be like, you know what, I got this. I've done way harder things than this. So this isn't fun. I don't enjoy this. I don't want to do it again, but I got this.
Nice. That is interesting, right? That when you surround yourself actually with such high net worth individuals, such successful business people, it very clearly shows the hardships you have to go through to reach that level. I mean, so you've built multiple companies, right? Exited multiple companies. What's the most unsexy truth about building businesses and finding success?
It always takes longer than you think. That's part one. Oh, we'll be profitable in 12 to 14 months. Okay, at best case, you're probably double that, like 2 years, maybe more. So it always takes longer than you think. And then the second would be is you've got to really, to use a Dan Sullivan quote, you really got to stay in the gain, not the gap. Because oftentimes when you're building something, you're just like, you're moving through quicksand or you're getting just beat up and punched in the face, it feels like. But there are good little nuggets that allow you to be like, that was cool. That one thing of today was really cool. It means I'm going in the right direction. Like, those little things are so important. And like, there's an example. Can you cuss on the show? Because it's part of the graphic or story.
Please go for it.
Okay. So there's a big time marketer by the name of Seth Godin. Seth's written a ton of books, like Purple Cow and all sorts of other big ones. And Seth, the artist who designed all of Seth's work, his name is Hugh McLeod. And Hugh works at a company called Gaping Void. I'm really, really good friends with the owner. And Gaping Void made this piece of art that I reference at least weekly. And it's all of these little figures, these little, persons. And it says at the top of it, entrepreneurship is like, oh fuck, 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 oh yay, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And that is entrepreneurship. Because we're dealing with so many things. We're juggling so many different things. We're spinning all the plates in the air. We're trying to make everyone happy and keep the clients happy and keep team running and all the other sort of stuff that, like, it's so easy to get stuck in those OF moments. But then, like, you get those hell yeah moments, like, that's, like, I'm onto it. I'm going to keep going. Like, that's the thing. And so entrepreneurs are really, like, we're weird. We're wired weird. Like, we think differently. There's a study that Dr. Doug Brackman did, who wrote the book Driven, amazingly smart individual, who basically found that only about 5% of the population have what's called the D2, D4 alleles in their brain. Basically like the cognitive makeup, like down to your genetics about how you operate. And it's really, really, it's a good book. But basically it shows that most of the people who are entrepreneurs had that D2, D4 allele. Similar people like Navy SEALs also have the D2, D4 alleles. And so there's just straight up, now it's proven by science, entrepreneurs and also crazy like Navy SEALs, etc., have a completely different cognitive and like brain makeup, and it's been proven now. And so it's things like that, like those OF moments where you're like, God, another one, another. But you just need that one thing, and that's all we oftentimes need just to, keep going again.
Wow. That is absolutely a lot of unsexy truths right there, right? That it's going to take longer than you expect, right? But this idea of, so you said stay in the game, not in the gap, means focus more on these hell yeah, these success moments, not focusing on the oh fuck moments that are happening constantly.
Correct. And that's a really tough thing to do, especially if you're more negatively wired or your outlook tends to be more pessimistic, whatever else. But if your outlook tends to be more pessimistic, I often say, like, maybe entrepreneurship isn't the thing for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like most, like the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world are like, just hustle, 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 bro. Like, cool. But there's also like a tolerance for risk and a tolerance for uncertainty. And there's so many other elements that a lot of people don't talk about in this like entrepreneurship hustle. Like, it's sexy to be framed as an entrepreneur these days. But the reality is, like, you got to be a little wacky too to be able to handle all of it. So it's not like it's not one of these things that the grass is always greener, because like you ask some of the people that work for me, they're entrepreneurs. They have full autonomy. They can do whatever they want to inside the company. Their salaries are basically uncapped. And they can operate like that, but they don't have to deal with the risk, which that still falls on my shoulders. And so when someone can operate in that frame, it allows them to really operate in their zone of genius and really like make things happen. So there's a place for everybody. I think entrepreneurship is great, but it does get the benefits certainly get over exaggerated sometimes.
The benefits get over exaggerated. Yeah, oftentimes the downsides, the risk doesn't really get spoken about quite enough. Interesting to me to hear that there's actually now scientifically proven parts of the brain that are in a lot of successful entrepreneurs, as well as, Navy SEALs, an example that you gave. I'm curious, what do you think are some of the aspects or qualities of an individual that they could maybe be listening to this and be able to realize within themselves, you know what, maybe I do actually have what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur? What do you think those qualities are?
Angela Duckworth wrote the book Grit. So you've got to have grit. I think that's certainly a portion of it. We sort of alluded to that with a little bit of what we just said previously. The other part of it, and there's obviously people that are younger, but oftentimes, your prefrontal lobe is never fully developed until you're at least 25. So your prefrontal cortex and all of that, like you're not fully developed until then. And so that's certainly another element. Like I help a lot of young entrepreneurs. Like I'm a part of a mentor in a program called Genius Youth that helps take people from the ages of 16 to 24 and like mentor them around business and all these other sorts of things. The ideas that they have are phenomenal, like absolutely amazing. But they don't have the full life experience yet to realize there's some landmines that are out there. And so experience is just important. But you can shortcut experience by having the right mentors. And oftentimes, and this is not a sexy answer, but oftentimes it means paying to play, like being in the room. Like, that Genius Youth is run by a company called Genius Network, a big mastermind group. And I've been a part of that. This is my going on 11th year. So I was 24 when I joined that. I gave my American Express over. It was $25,000 at the time. Wasn't sure how I was going to pay for it. But literally that singular choice changed the entire trajectory of my entire life. I started businesses with people as a result of that group, met lifelong clients and friends, these sorts of things. And so, if you're not going to grit regardless, because you need to have it, but also experience, it goes a long way, but you can shortcut that by being in the right room with the right people. And unfortunately, it's oftentimes pay to play. And then after that, it's actually, I love that, people like I under promise and over deliver. I don't like that. I like to over promise and absolutely over deliver and crush expectations. And I've built a really, really good reputation doing that, because most other people are like, well, I'll talk you this and then I'll give you this. And I think that's fine. It's better than, under delivering, I suppose. But I like over promising because it holds me to a higher standard. Also, I'm a freaking crazy entrepreneur. So like we find different ways to motivate ourselves, etc. So those would probably be the three things of like overpromise, overdeliver, get experience, and if you're not going to get the experience, be in the right room. And then regardless of all of those things, the underpinning of just having really solid grit.
Really solid grit. Keep going. Actually, I don't know if I've ever heard somebody tell me this tip of over promise and over deliver, but how you framed it, that this is something for, I can see within myself actually, and a lot of entrepreneurs, and then for you, that it will actually motivate you to do better, do more. Something that happens a lot of times is people refer to it as scope creep, right? Like you're getting paid for one thing, but you start to do more because they ask a question, and then you do a little bit here and there, and all of a sudden you're doing way more work than you're getting paid for. How can we fight against that? And does it relate to this overpromise and overdeliver?
How much time do we have? It's really what it comes down to. I'll tell you, I battled scope creep so early. In fact, scope creep for a lot of service-based companies is like the bane of their existence. I love it because we bill differently. I bill where I'm going to charge you a retainer, and this is going to be your price. I am in your corner for a minimum of 90 days, meaning we're going to work together for a minimum of 90 days. So take that retainer, multiply it by 3, and that's what the initial contract value is worth to me. But after that, it becomes month to month. Now, you can cancel anytime with 30-day notice, no big deal. That model and shifting to that alone allowed us to basically have a retention level of, I don't know, I forget the exact number, but approximately 6 to 7 months to 14.7 months on our LTV, our lifetime value. So we're just doing more over a longer period of time. So scope creep, great. Now we'll do it. We'll take it on. What is the priority? Should we prioritize the new thing you just gave us or the thing that we're already working on? And then you tell me how you want that to be taken care of in what order. So we'll do it. But if it's not in the way that you want to, you get mad later, it's on you because you rearranged how we're actually executing. Now, there's a portion of that obviously you have to manage on the back end, and we've got dozens and dozens of people on staff. So we have some economies of scale like that. But great, you want to add this and that and this and that and that, no problem. I'll tell you, it'll probably take an extra 2, 4, 6 months, whatever the number is. Most of the time, they're okay because then once they have it and they can understand, like, you can do that, and you can do this, and you can do that. And it just makes it so easy to be like, why would I go anywhere else when I'm already getting it in this capacity? And it's the same sort of thing on the fractionalcmo.com side of things because 90-day minimums and then month to month. Once you have someone in your business being able to look over your shoulder and look at the KPIs and understand the numbers and say, hey, these leading indicators right here basically mean that in 90 days from now, we're going to have a sales cycle that's going to be slumping. We got to fix this today so we're not hurting for revenue 90 to 120 days from now. Most business owners would be like, do you have a crystal ball? And it's like, no, I'm just looking at the numbers that you weren't looking at ever in order to have that. Now, if a business owner has that, they're like, why would I ever, kill the golden goose sort of thing in order to shoot, what is it, whatever it is to spite my face. Yeah. They don't do that. And so that's a portion of structuring offers where they become a hell yes that allows you to consistently over-deliver and then keep people really happy and engaged with you. Because otherwise, I'll bill you $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, whatever the number is. And then it just, scope creep becomes indefinite. And then you're the bad guy for saying, sorry, I can't do anymore because it's too far outside of what we're doing. And that's not fun for anyone.
No, of course not. That's not. So what I'm hearing is that, you have a structured 90-day commitment and plan, and then you shift it to month. And is that shift to month so that every month you can have open communication and be able to adjust the contract and the commitments a little bit as needed?
No, we've been pretty much, in certain instances, we'll adjust retainers higher once we're working with them. Very rarely, though. We get a good sense of the onboarding and the sales calls, et cetera, what they really need, and then we'll price them accordingly. And then if, let's just say, I'll throw some numbers out there that are just irrelevant. It's not what we charge, but I'll give you an idea. If we were charging $1,000 for this, and based off the sales calls, okay, well, $1,000 a month, whatever the thing is. If we're charging this person over here $30,000 a month, we know they need a lot more. They need constant KPIs, dashboards, automations, email stuff, social, all the way down the list. that I know relatively what each of these things cost and where I have the margin on them. So if someone starts at 1,000, but they want a lot more, okay, we have two options now. We can either just keep, adding things to the mix and we're just going to keep this going for forever, or I can charge you from 1,000 to 10,000 and I can do 10 times the amount of work in the same amount of time. What would you prefer? And then it's either you pay for speed or you pay for you're still going to pay, but it's just going to take a lot longer. And the choice is entirely theirs.
Nice. Okay. And so it is, you almost every month there's a set parameters, and I don't want to say it's like you almost have a certain amount of hours allocated to their account, and depending on what
We
they
don't
want.
track hours because
Yeah.
it's like I don't we had 8,700 law firms insured across the U.S. And a separate side note, the ABA, like the American Bar Association meetings, I have to go to those meetings, several times a year. They start with their conferences at 7 a.m. You either have the option of attending a yoga class if you would like, or a 12-step meeting, because basically 1/3 of attorneys are clinically diagnosed as alcoholics. And that is the rat race and billing for hours and all of these sorts of things, which I said when I started this company, I am never tracking an hour. I don't want to get in that, I don't want to be the cause of someone else's addiction, ever.
Nice.
And so for us, we don't track hours, but we can have a good idea of it, like roughly how long this thing will take. And then if we know that, then we can say, we'll just allocate that amount of time on an ongoing basis. But then, like I said, if you need a lot more, we'll be like, hey, you're wanting a lot more. We can reorganize or just charge you more that meets that. And then it becomes an easy conversation where you set the frame, but they control the frame.
Nice. I like it. I like how you also just said that you will reorganize, right? So either reorganize stuff now to keep the, actual investment value the same, or if you want more done at a faster speed, we're going to change the value. Now, I think taking this approach from the get-go of overpromise and then you're going to over-deliver also, it's going to allow you to most likely bill higher also, and then make sure that you have the margins set to be able to continue over delivering. Because the last thing you want to do is that when you promise, only a, let's call it quote unquote, realistic amount of what you're going to do, I think you're more inclined to try and drop your value and sell on price versus, I know it's in myself. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to do above and beyond. And then I'm already in the back of my mind expecting I'm going to do even more than that. So we better go ahead and put the price tag to meet it.
It sets, you're entirely right. It sets the frame of how you're going to show up and how you're going to deliver. Charging more than you think. Like when I first started the agency, I think I was charging like $2,000 a month. And I couldn't even afford to do that these days with the amount of, I would love to, but I can't do that. But it's one of those things where when you charge more, you have more margin. The more margin that you have, the better people you can find. The better people you can find, the higher and better quality the results are, and typically the faster they occur. So you're charging more in order to serve better versus charging more to try and put more money in your pocket, because the longer and better that you serve, the more you're going to put in your pocket in the long run, but it may just not be the quick hit up front. And frankly, a lot of business owners play the short, they play paper, or play for table stakes versus going after the whole fatted cow, per se, where I would rather have a margin where I'm only making $2,000 a month, let's say, but keep that person around for 24 months versus have a margin of $3,000 this month or $4,000 and only keep them around for 90 to 120 days. I am way better off to keep them for the long run, because it's 5 times to 25 times more expensive to go get a new customer or client than it is to simply retain an existing one. So how do you do that in structure where you're over delivering, you're charging a good enough margin to have really solid people operate it so they can over deliver with you and for you for that client, and then everybody's happy?
Nice. Everybody, rewind back, hit the little button to go back 30 seconds a couple times there. You said, right, charge more to serve better, right? So that you can serve better. That's the mindset to have. And then have a long-term mindset also, right? You make $2,000 margin this month, but you have them around for 24 months versus a 4,000 margin, but they leave after just a couple. You're shooting yourself in the foot, right? You're actually not serving end of day anybody, huh?
Yeah, 1,000%. And the other part of it that a lot of people don't have is like, and I write about this in a new book that we're wrapping up and finishing up, where the hunter versus the gardener mindset. And most entrepreneurs are the hunter mindset. Don't get me wrong, I'm a hunter. Like I'm a Texas boy, God, guns, and glory. But it's one of these things where you're not going to go hunt and get a kill every single time. You're not going to go get that big whale every time you step up to the plate, sort of thing. And so it's nice when you get them, but what that typically leads for a lot of entrepreneurs is feast to famine. I got the big client. Great, great, great. Okay, we're wrapping up our work for them. Oh God, now what? I can't find anyone else. Oh my God, what's going to happen? The world's going to end. I'm going to die. Oh, new big client. Okay, we got. And it's a constant roller coaster of up and down like that. Whereas that's fine, and that's my role in the company. Just go work with and find the big clients. But I have a whole team of people that have gardener mentalities where let's do the things today that we may not see the rewards for 3 or 6 months from now. But by doing that, I don't have to go hunt every single month and worry about where the next client is coming from. We keep them around, we keep them engaged, we keep them happy. And then that together means that before the month even starts, I know I'm going to make X amount of money. I know payroll's made. I know I have a margin already built in. And so now anything that I go hunt, big clients, whatever else, is icing on the cake. And it allows the company to grow way faster with a building off a solid base and then sort of growing upwards like that, sort of like a flywheel.
Amazing, amazing. Hunter versus gardener mindset. Right? It sounds like it's probably better if you have to pick one of the two for an entrepreneur. Should they be thinking more like a gardener?
I think it's entrepreneurs are wired like hunters, which is a tough thing to then cognitively break. And so for me, I am a hunter, but in order to think like a gardener, I needed someone who was a gardener. And so that for me, that was a role that I filled in the company to satisfy or satiate that need that we had. And now we have both. And so sometimes an entrepreneur can go, both ends. I think for longevity's sake, having a company that runs like a gardener is way better than a company that just hunts all the time.
Nice. But having both is truly the ticket, right? So surround yourself with other people, right? That bring out the strength or that bring out your weaknesses, excuse me, that I guess fill the gap of your weaknesses, right? So you can focus on your strengths.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. Drake, talk to me real quick. You mentioned something about leading indicators earlier, right? And
Yeah.
you've also been quoted to say that your marketing, if it's not measured, it's probably broken, right? Talk to us a little bit about the importance of tracking and then leading indicators versus lagging indicators.
So I'll take a long way to answer that question. We use a framework called Anchor. It's attract, nurture, convert, humanize, optimize, and then retention and recurring revenue. So the O in Anchor is the optimize. The problem is most entrepreneurs don't know what to even optimize. So they're like, oh, money in the bank this month, or like top line sales are up. Great. But top line sales, you went from 50 to 100. Yeah, but your cost also went from 45,000 to 95,000. You're actually making less at 100 than you were at 50. And so, percentage wise. And so what is it for? Like, what's the number? So to get indicators, a lot of people who are familiar with the stock market will know many of these things. But for us, like a lot of the things we track for ourselves and for our clients is what are website views per month? How many leads did we get? And then from leads, how many people booked a call? How many people actually booked a call then showed up for the call? How many people were closed? And then the revenue of cash collected, and then accounts receivable, AR sort of stuff. Like how much is sitting out there? Because you're never going to collect everything. That's just the nature of the beast, as much as you would like. And so if I know those, and I can say, hey, in June we did this, in July we did this, and in August we had a drop off in. Let's just say website visitors stayed the same, but we had a drop off in leads or like calls booked. That tells me that maybe something broke. Maybe the tech broke or Zapier Zap broke or whatever else. And I can have the team diagnose that really quickly because they shouldn't fall off that quick. So that allows me to then say, hey, let's fix that before something happens. Or if website visitors are trending down and leads are trending down with it, it says, you know what? We really got to get out there. Let's drive some traffic. Let's do something because if we don't do that today, indicator is going to be revenue 90 days from now because a sales cycle is called 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
And so simply by knowing a few of those metrics, you can go, you have so much more confidence when it comes to running the business of where you're going to be in 90 days from now based off of past experience. And it's sort of like the old joke of like, a CPA or an actuary doesn't know how to drive a car because they only look through the review mirror because they're always looking backwards at numbers and things that have come in. It's kind of true to a degree because I've had many of them as clients, but the side of it is like, if you don't know where you were, how are you really going to expect where you're going? And so by using that, it gives you so much more confidence. You can make changes, whether you have to hire faster, fire faster, drive more traffic, get more leads, whatever it is. Then you're operating from a place of absolute confidence instead of a place of like, oh crap, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Beautiful. I love this answer. And so a couple highlights here, right? For everybody, tracking things like website views. This is sort of like the beginning, right? Website views to leads, to booked calls, to show up rate, close deals, average customer value, right? When you can see those numbers, you can now start to predict your future. And that way, when you have let's just call it a 3-month sales cycle, you can be looking at your numbers today and be predicting the future and catch problems before they turn into real revenue problems as well.
Yep, said it spot on.
Nice, Draye. I appreciate it. So you also mentioned your book, the new one coming out, your 4th book, Anchor Marketing. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I told like the framework, the Anchor framework, and originally sort of talked about Anchor and developed the concept in a book that I wrote, two years ago or so called The Recession Survival Guide. And I think, on average, a recession happens every 11 years. On average, means we're kind of due for both. Sure. But we had a 1-month recession during COVID until they turned on the money printer, and that sort of staved it off artificially. Well, the book was written, and Anchor is in that book, in order to basically help people, whether you're having a recession or good times or bad times, you need to manage or mitigate downside risk first. And then once you do that, then you can blow the roof off and market like crazy. But if you're operating and you're having client interactions and you don't have some sort of general liability policy or errors and omissions policy or cyber policy, especially if you have people's data, that's $1 million lawsuit right out of the gate. Now you're out of business. So that is a very simple thing that could be done. And that's takes 20 minutes and a couple $100. And so if you mitigate downside risk first, then you could really blow the roof off. And so the book's got a lot of praise, and people have loved the Anchor framework. That I was like, all right, I'm going to really take more time to develop it, have a lot more frameworks, a lot more teaching elements, the stuff that we show all of our clients and help them with. And so I've written an entire book called Anchor Marketing. I mean, you'll be able to get it at anchorbook.com, ANCHOR book.com. And it's one of those things we're basically going to try and just give it away for either free or at or below cost, probably like $3, basically just to handle just not even free plus shipping because that stuff's kind of sleazy in my mind. Yeah. But basically just give it away as best as possible to help a lot of businesses really optimize their marketing. Because most people think that I don't have enough leads. That's the attract side of things. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe you have enough leads, but you really suck at nurturing them and converting them. So you can add more fuel to the gas of that fire and pay for leads. But if you're not nurturing and converting them, you're just going to throw good money after bad. Or these days, a lot of people are just like, hello, contact first name. When you get those emails because they flubbed it up, I lose my mind over that stuff. We have a complete lack of humanization in how business is done. And so we tell our clients to go the extra mile and do things like at scale or economies of scale or use AI in certain things to personalize human-to-human interactions because it's an H-to-H world now, not a B-to-B, not a B-to-C. And then obviously optimize and then retention and current recurring revenue, which we sort of talked about earlier, because it's 5 times to 25 times more expensive to get a new client than simply keep an existing one. So some of that's not sexy, but that's the stuff that really makes businesses go, that if you spend time on it, then man, you could live a freaking amazing life, great margins, great quote unquote work-life balance, although that's different for every person, and just generally like the sport of business again.
Nice. The book's going to almost teach people how to genuinely like the sport of business again. Anchor Marketing. And you said it's going to be available at anchorbook.com.
You got it.
Nice. Draye, talk to us a little bit about your future, my friend. What does the future of fractional CMO look like? Redfern Media, your future generally, as I know actually we didn't even get to touch on here that you are very, dare I say, work-life balance, family balanced as well, are you not?
Yes, I have. I'm married 10 years this year. We've got 3 kids. Um,
Amazing.
I think that if anything, I am a husband and a dad first. Um, and I think that there's elements to being, like being good in business that you gamify. You look at your KPIs and you do this and the other sort of stuff, and like I'm businessman. But I also try to gamify family life
Yeah.
to make it fun. And so things like, I try to keep all of my kids at or above their age in countries that they've been to. Now it gets a lot harder. We have a 16-year-old. It's been a lot harder as they get older to do this. I've been to 30, I think 36, 37 countries. She'll have been to 18 countries this year at age 16.
Oh,
So it's things like that of like giving experiences. I love the saying like you only have 18 summers with your kids. Highly accurate. So I really try to be the present dad, present father. I drop my kids off at school in the morning. I pick my kids up at school or from school
wow.
in the afternoons. I'm a dad first. And what's super funny is, God, 30 years ago when I was driving with my dad to school, he would be playing things like Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and Les Brown and all of this sorts of stuff. And I'm like, Dad, turn this off. This is all, like all the sort of sounds that young kids make. And it wasn't until I was like 25, 26, and I was going through a really hard time in the business where I found myself saying, like, I got this. I was regurgitating Tony Robbins lines that I learned 20, years
Yeah,
previously.
yeah.
And I was like, where did this come from? And it was all of those car rides sitting with my dad, getting basically programmed to have a positive mind from the age of basically 4 onwards. And so that's another thing that I do with my kids. Like every single morning, we listen to things like The Energy Bus, which is a John Gordon book, or The Go-Giver by Bob Berg, and various things like that that are like business parables that even a kid can understand, that teaches various elements of like, what, I'm putting a lot of a cent or two every day for a long period of time, and it's not going to pay off for years from now. But it's sort of like the saying where what is the best time to plant an oak tree 30 years ago? What's the second best time today? And so that's sort of my mindset. So husband and dad first, but I try to gamify it. I try to make it fun. And just be present. I think that's the thing that most of our kids need these days.
That's
Just
great.
being around and not having your phone going like this all the time.
I'm so happy you shared that. The majority of this podcast of just understanding who you are business wise, I don't think anybody would guess that. And just hear like the importance of it, right? Dropping your kids off every morning, picking them up every afternoon, just being so focused. Really, really great, Dre. I appreciate it a lot. And to wrap us off, right? We always like to talk about legacy a little bit on the show. Tell me, what does legacy even mean to you?
I think legacy is such a difficult term because it's so different than anyone, for everyone. But I think that, most people are completely forgotten about and insignificant 2 to 3 generations from now. Like you are a sack of bones and blood walking some planet that, you'll most likely be forgotten 2 to 3 generations from now. That's the vast majority of people. And if you realize that we're just a ball of rocks floating in a massive, never-ending universe and like it puts certain things in perspective of just like going and doing the thing and giving it a try and putting yourself out there. And that's the sort of stuff I try to teach my kids of like, just make the world a better place, do what it is that lights you up, and then you'll have the things, beneficial things that'll come as a result of it. So for me, legacy is, I don't want to necessarily have my name on a whole bunch of buildings. I don't care about that. I think it's largely insignificant. I've had the cars, I've had the houses, completely insignificant. Once you have them, you realize, God, this is worthless. The only thing that I really would love to have is a legacy of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren that made a difference for us and made the world a better place. And that's it. And so I could do some of that with money, certainly. But I think I could do more of that with money and being a present husband and father to show them what a real marriage and relationship looks like. And then also the time I spend with them, that they're not an inconvenience, they are the main priority. And if I can do all of those things together and then have the money to take them and fly, the entire family business class to Europe and give them experiences and all of the other sort of stuff, that's icing on the cake. But I think my children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren of just, he made a difference and he made the world a better place and he made our lives better is all I could really ever ask for.
Great, thank you. From the man that sold a business to Berkshire Hathaway, saying that being present, actually making a positive impact on his kids, grandkids, having them say, right? That's an amazing thing to hear. Draye, thanks so much for your time today, my friend. I greatly, greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure, Wayne. Really enjoyed it, man.
That's a wrap, everybody. Let me know what you thought wherever you're checking out this podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, but leave us a comment. Send me a DM on what you learned. Here's some of my biggest takeaways. Draye was such a pleasure. Everybody go check out his new book, Anchor Marketing, over at anchorbook.com. What are my biggest takeaways? I love how he talked about the pain cave. You can just keep going. End of the day, those are often the entrepreneurs that win, that succeed, the ones that refuse to give up, go deep into the pain cave and just keep going. What a great parallel between sports, right? Him being a pro cyclist and then actually entrepreneurship and business as well. He says that it's always going to take longer than you think. That's a really great takeaway, great lesson to remember when you're hopping into business. He shared with us some of these simple KPIs to be tracking, right? That we can see these leading indicators, things beforehand. They're going to ultimately 3 months down the line tell you, oh man, now I have a sales problem. Now my income has dropped. If you can track these key performance indicators, these simple metrics ahead of time, it's going to save you a huge headache down the line. And then, of course, he talks about charging more to serving better, having a long-term mindset. And then his definition of legacy is so great, right? He wants his friends, family, his kids, his grandkids, and his great-grandkids to just speak well of him, that he was a man that treated them well, that made the world a better place. Everybody, it's not about having your name on buildings or on statues. It's about every person that you interact with, leaving them a little bit better than you found them. Thank you so much for being here today. I invite you to visit us over at journeytolegacy.org. Until next time, I'm your host, Wayne Veldsman. We'll see you soon.